Imagine this. You are standing at the edge of a cliff, not to jump, but to witness something far more unsettling. Below you stretches a vast, jagged landscape, a terrain of emotional wounds, failures and heartbreaks you've spent a lifetime avoiding. The air is thick with the unspoken truth that every meaningful path forward cuts straight through it. And here's the paradox. You've been taught that pain is the enemy, that happiness means sidestepping sorrow, that growth is a linear ascent toward light, away from the dark. But what if the opposite is true? What if the very wounds you've been running from are the exact fissures through which your deepest strength emerges? Consider the caterpillar. To become a butterfly, it doesn't simply grow wings. It dissolves into a primordial soup within its chrysalis, its very structure breaking down before reassembling into something new. No part of that transformation is painless. No part is comfortable. And yet, without that disintegration, flight would be impossible. Why then do we humans insist on believing we can evolve without enduring the same? Think of the last time life shattered you, the loss that left you gasping, the betrayal that hollowed out your chest, the failure that made you question your worth. In that moment, you faced a choice: to numb the ache or to let it carve into you. Most choose the former. We drink, we scroll, we bury ourselves in work, we pretend the wound isn't there. But beneath that avoidance lurks a terrifying question. What if the pain wasn't the obstacle, but the path? History's most profound thinkers, Nietzsche with his declaration that what does not kill me makes me stronger, Jung with his shadow work, Frankl surviving the Holocaust by finding meaning in suffering, all point to the same unsettling truth. Emotional pain is not a detour on the road to growth. It is the road. Yet we live in a world obsessed with bypassing it. Therapy is often sought to fix sadness, not to sit with it. Productivity gurus preach hacks to avoid discomfort, not to metabolize it. We medicate grief, pathologize loneliness, and shame anger, as if these emotions are errors in the code of being human, rather than essential threads in the tapestry of a life fully lived. But here's what happens when we refuse to feel. The pain doesn't disappear, it metastasizes. It emerges as chronic anxiety, as unexplained rage, as a void no achievement can fill. It whispers to us in the quiet hours, you are running, but you cannot hide. So let me ask you, what if the heartbreak you re-avoiding is the very thing that will teach you how to love? What if the failure you're ashamed of is the foundation of your future resilience? What if the grief you're suppressing is the key to unlocking your deepest compassion? This is not a call to seek suffering. It is a call to stop fearing it, to recognize that emotional pain is not the antithesis of growth. It is the alchemical fire that transforms you. And if that's true, then everything you've been taught about happiness, success, and self-improvement might be backwards. Which means the real question isn't, how do I avoid pain? It's, how do I let it change me? You wake up one morning and realize something is wrong, not with the world, but with the way you've been taught to move through it. You've been handed a script: avoid pain, seek pleasure, optimize happiness, and yet the more diligently you follow it, the emptier you feel. Why? Because beneath the surface of this modern dogma lies a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. We've been conditioned to believe that suffering is a malfunction, a glitch in the system that must be corrected. But psychology, philosophy, and even neuroscience reveal a far darker, far more liberating truth. Pain is not the enemy. Denial is. The illusion of the pain-free life. From birth, we absorb a silent narrative that a good life is one free from suffering. Advertising sells us escape. Social media showcases highlight reels devoid of struggle. Even well-meaning advice, just stay positive, implies that sadness is a failure of willpower. But this is a lie. Ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius understood that suffering is woven into existence. Buddhism's first noble truth declares life inherently unsatisfactory. Carl Jung warned that refusing to confront pain only deepens its grip, burying it in the unconscious, where it morphs into self-sabotage, projection, and neurosis. And yet, modern culture insists on a different story, one where discomfort is optional, where emotional scars are flaws to be erased rather than lessons etched into the soul. The psychology of avoidance and its consequences. Here's what happens when we refuse to face emotional pain. It goes underground. Freud called it repression. Jung called it the shadow. When we refuse to acknowledge our wounds, they don't vanish, they fester. A heartbreak denied becomes cynicism. A childhood trauma buried resurfaces as inexplicable rage. The pain we ignore doesn't leave. It just learns to whisper in ways we no longer recognize. We lose the capacity for depth. Nietzsche wrote, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." When we numb our sorrows, we also numb our joy. The same neural pathways that process grief also allow for transcendent love. The same vulnerability that makes us susceptible to hurt is the only gateway to true connection. We become addicted to distraction. The modern world is a cathedral of avoidance, endless scrolling, binge-watching, compulsive productivity, all designed to keep us one step ahead of our own emotions. But as Alan Watts observed, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. The existential dilemma, why we fear pain. At its core, our resistance to emotional suffering stems from a primal terror, the fear of annihilation. The ego's resistance pain shatters the illusion of control. It forces us to confront our fragility, our mortality, the uncomfortable truth that we are not the architects of our fate, but participants in something far larger. The ego, which craves stability, will do anything to avoid this reckoning. The myth of permanent safety. We cling to the fantasy that if we just make the right choices, we can engineer a life without loss. But as Schopenhauer argued, suffering is not an aberration, it is the default state of desire. To want is to suffer. To love is to risk devastation. To strive is to court failure. The cultural taboo against darkness. We've pathologized melancholy, treating it as a disorder rather than a necessary season of the soul. Yet, as Rumi wrote, the wound is the place where the light enters you. What if depression, anxiety, and heartbreak are not enemies, but guides? The fork in the road. This is where the hidden problem reveals itself. We've been taught that growth is about addition, more knowledge, more success, more happiness. But real transformation is often about subtraction, shedding illusions, facing truths, allowing old versions of ourselves to die so new ones can emerge. And that requires pain. Not the kind of pain that destroys, but the kind that initiates, like the burning of a phoenix before it rises, like the cracking of a seed before it sprouts. So the question is no longer, how do I avoid suffering? It's, what is this pain trying to teach me? And the answer to that question will lead us into even deeper waters. You're walking through life with an invisible weight, one you've carried so long you've forgotten it's there. It shapes how you love, how you work, how you dream. It whispers in your decisions, your relationships, your quietest moments of doubt. This weight is the unprocessed pain you've been running from, and it's silently shaping your reality in ways you don't even realize. The high cost of emotional avoidance. When we refuse to face our suffering, it doesn't vanish, it goes rogue. Like a virus mutating beneath the surface, it infiltrates every aspect of our being. The paradox of numbness. Research shows that emotional suppression doesn't just deaden pain, it deadens everything. Studies on alexithymia, the inability to feel emotions, reveal that people who shut down grief also struggle to feel joy. The nervous system isn't selective. When you build walls to keep out sorrow, you also imprison laughter. The illusion of control. Modern psychology confirms what ancient philosophies knew. The more we try to control our emotions, the more they control us. Harvard researcher Susan David found that rigid positivity, "I must stay happy," leads to greater emotional volatility. Meanwhile, those who accept difficult emotions recover faster. The repetition compulsion. Freud noticed a haunting pattern. Unhealed pain recreates itself. The abandoned child chases distant partners. The humiliated employee sabotages success. Like a ghost, unresolved suffering drags us back to familiar wounds, demanding we finally face what we've buried. The neurological truth. Pain reshapes the brain, but not how you think. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, reveals something extraordinary. Pain creates privation. Trauma leaves physical scars in neural pathways. Yes. But psychologist Donald Hebb's famous axiom explains why neurons that fire together wire together. Each time we avoid pain, we reinforce the fear of feeling it. But suffering can also rewire wisdom. Studies on post-traumatic growth show that facing emotional pain, not avoiding it, strengthens the prefrontal cortex, enhancing emotional regulation. Like a muscle forced to lift heavier weights, the mind grows stronger through resistance. The cultural hypnosis, how society profits from your avoidance. We live in an economy built on escape. The wellness industrial complex sells us meditation apps to quiet anxiety rather than understand its message. The productivity cult glorifies burnout as a virtue, pathologizing rest as laziness. The digital opiate of social media offers endless distraction from the self. This isn't accidental. A population afraid of its own shadows is easier to control. As Huxley warned in Brave New World, the most effective dystopia isn't one of punishment, but of pleasure, of comfort, of endless distraction from anything real. The body keeps the score. Bessel van der Kolk's groundbreaking work proves what poets have always known. The body remembers what the mind forgets. Chronic pain with no medical cause, often stored trauma, unexplained fatigue, a nervous system exhausted from repression, anxiety attacks, the psyche's last-ditch effort to be heard. Your cells are archives of everything you've refused to feel. The fork in the road. This is the silent tragedy of emotional avoidance. We think we're choosing safety, but we're choosing stagnation. We believe we're outrunning pain, but we're outrunning ourselves. Every great spiritual tradition speaks of the dark night of the soul, not as punishment, but as passage. The desert the Israelites wandered, the Buddha's night under the Bodhi tree, Christ's agony in Gethsemane. These weren't detours, they were the only way forward. So the question isn't, why is this happening to me? It's, what is this pain preparing me to become? And the answer to that question holds the key to breaking free. There comes a moment, if you're lucky, when the weight of your own avoidance becomes heavier than the fear of facing what you've buried. This is the moment of rebellion, not against the world, but against everything inside you that still believes pain is the enemy. The counterintuitive truth, leaning into the wound. Modern psychology and ancient wisdom agree on one radical prescription. The way out is through, not around, not over, through. The alchemy of acceptance studies on mindfulness reveal a paradox. When patients with chronic pain stop resisting their discomfort, their suffering decreases. The same applies to emotional pain. This isn't passive resignation, it's active surrender. Like a judo master using an opponent's force, you disarm pain by no longer fighting it. Shadow work, Jung's path to wholeness. Carl Jung taught that integration, not elimination, is the goal. Your rage, your shame, your darkest impulses, they're not defects to destroy, but exiled parts of yourself waiting to be reclaimed. Try this. When a painful emotion arises, ask, what is this here to teach me? Not how do I make it leave? The Nietzschean transformation. Nietzsche, as concept of amor fati, love of fate, proposes a revolutionary stance. Not merely bear what is necessary, but love it. This isn't masochism, it as the recognition that your deepest wounds contain the seeds of your greatest strengths. Practical alchemy, turning pain into power. 1. The ritual of sacred anger. Most spiritual traditions pathologize rage, but psychologist James Hollis suggests anger is often the soul's defense against annihilation. Try this. Write a letter to whoever, whatever caused you pain. Burn it. Don't send it. This isn't about them. It's about reclaiming your voice. 2. Grief as a practice, not an event. Modern society gives us 3 days of bereavement leave, but expects a lifetime of productivity. This is insanity. Create a grief ritual, light a candle, play a song that cracks you open. Let the tears come like a monsoon. This is how the heart purifies itself. 3. The art of productive suffering. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz by finding meaning in torment. His lesson: when we can't change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. Ask, what higher purpose could this pain serve? Maybe your anxiety makes you more empathetic. Maybe your failures taught you discernment. The warriors who walked this path before you, Frida Kahlo turned physical agony into surrealist masterpieces. Lincoln channeled lifelong depression into moral leadership. Nelson Mandela transformed 27 years of imprisonment into a force for reconciliation. They weren't superhuman. They simply understood what most never realize. Pain is the price of admission to a meaningful life. The fork in the road. This is where you choose. Will you continue running from your shadows, exhausting yourself in a futile attempt to outpace what's already inside you? Or will you turn and face them, not as enemies, but as the fiercest teachers you'll ever know? Because beyond this choice lies the most shocking revelation of all. Here is the secret at the heart of the labyrinth. You are not being punished by your pain. You are being sculpted by it. Every loss, every betrayal, every silent night of the soul. These are not interruptions of your path. They are the path, the crucible of transformation. Consider the metamorphosis of a diamond. Carbon atoms subjected to unbearable pressure. Darkness so complete it rearranges their very structure. An alchemy that transforms soft black graphite into unbreakable light. This is not a metaphor. This is physics, and it is also the story of your life. The existential revelation. All great wisdom traditions converge on one terrifying, liberating truth: Christian mysticism. The wound is where the light enters you. Buddhism. No mud, no lotus. Alchemy, as above, so below. The macrocosm of stars being born in stellar catastrophes mirrors the microcosm of human transformation. Modern psychology confirms what the ancients knew. Post-traumatic growth studies show that people who fully process suffering often develop greater emotional resilience, deeper spiritual connection, more authentic relationships, heightened appreciation for life. The Phoenix Principle mythology gives us the phoenix for a reason, not as fantasy but as map. The fire comes for everyone. You don't choose the flames choose you. A failed marriage, a terminal diagnosis, a dream that dies, the surrender. The phoenix doesn't resist burning. It lets the fire consume every feather. This is what you've been avoiding, the holy annihilation of who you thought you were. The rebirth. From ashes comes a creature capable of flight. Not despite the fire, because of it, the quantum perspective. Modern physics reveals a startling parallel to emotional growth. particle collisions. Subatomic particles must be smashed apart at nearly light speed to reveal their fundamental nature. Your breaking points, those moments when you sobbed, "I can't take this anymore," were your personal particle colliders, revealing who you truly are beneath the persona, your pain as sacred text. The Japanese art of kintsugi repairs broken pottery with gold lacquer, honoring the breaks as part of the object's history. You are that pottery. Your anxiety, a map of what matters most to you. Proof of your capacity to love failure, the foundation of future mastery, the final invitation. At the edge of all understanding stands this truth: the universe is not happening to you. It is happening for you. Every tear waters the seeds of wisdom. Anguish carves channels for compassion. Dark night makes you fluent in the language of dawn. You stand now at the threshold between who you were and who you must become, the bridge between them, the very pain you've been running from. The last question. Not, "Why did this happen?" but, "Who will I choose to become because it did?" The answer writes itself in every breath you take from this moment forward.